Hello, Zoran Prunken. Today I want to talk to you about marketing and sales in 2020 and beyond. Now, a lot of people are always looking ahead at this time of year to see what they've done well, what they've done poorly, and what they'd like to do better in the future. Coming up to that New Year period where people want to look forward and see how they can stay ahead and updated with everything that's happening within the marketing and sales industry, and how they can take on better practice for the next year, but also just to get ahead of any of their competitors, or more realistically, stay with their head above water in terms of things that are happening within that industry. Now, when I say marketing and sales industry, what I'm really referring to and summarizing what a lot of people say and think when they use that term is mainly where awareness is. Now, I'm going to talk about this just in a bit more detail, but I just want to flag it here, where awareness currently is. Now, with what I'm about to talk about and predictions in the future, no one is Nostradamus and no one can predict the future. That puts you in a bind, so you don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but it also puts me in a bind that I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm going to try to predict what is going to happen in this episode. And the only way I can really do that is have a look at what has happened in the past and what is happening currently, and use both of those to then almost have a good educated guess of where I think things are going in the future. Now, having said all of that, humans are not going to change in the next year, and they are not going to change in the foreseeable future. The way humans behave, their DNA and their psychology is not going to change all that much. And by the time it does change, listening to this episode most likely will not be around. So with that said, humans not changing, they are going to be doing things that always work. Now, there's a customer journey they go through, people go through before they actually go and make a purchase, and subsequent purchase they become aware of their problem. They've gone from being unaware to problem aware to solution aware, all the solutions that are out there, then product aware, your specific solution within that product range, and then finally most aware, they're actually consuming that product, and that's where you go in and ask for repeat business and referrals and recommendations and so on. Now, each one of those waypoints going forward have 4 elements, and I talk about this all the time. It's how do you get someone's attention? Once you've got their attention, how do you get their interest and their desire and their action? And the ways you go about doing that is through some sort of bait. You have to bait someone's attention, and that's usually through a pattern interrupt. People have thought patterns, behavior patterns. If you can interrupt both of those, one or other of those two things, you can get someone's attention. Enough attention that you can go out and give context to the offer you're about to getting their interest in the offer. So giving them context. And usually that happens through a story. And I'm using story very loosely there, and then obviously give an offer, something that you are going to give them in exchange for something they are going to give you. And it's not necessarily money, it could be any other currency like time or attention or labor or any number of other tradable currencies. And then finally, you have to go and make an ask, a request for them to go take action. And usually you do those 4 steps to generate a lead, and then once you generate a lead, to then convert that lead into a sale. And that kind of follows that customer journey that I was just talking about. And you can obviously stack leads and sales on top of each other and generate a lead, then a sale, and generate a lead and a sale, and so on, for higher priced products. And none of that stuff is actually going to change. The way consumers behave and the way you as a brand should interact with those consumers should not change. And I've just given you those frameworks of how I think that should work. So then where does this take us in terms of predicting where the future is going to go? And as I said, it's around where the awareness is. So there is human awareness out there of things that are happening, coming through the 5 different senses, and the only way to get attention is through awareness. Now, I'm going to give you a breakdown of where awareness has been throughout history. and then I'm going to tell you where it currently is at, and then I'm going to give you my predictions of where I think it will be in the future, and then I'll wrap it up with how I think you should take all of these insights on board and create a plan for 2020 and beyond. So if you look back to marketing and sales throughout history, for a lot of human communication and quote unquote selling, persuading other people to do things, it has been done face to face in person, and then we kind of moved on to billboards and newspapers, and from that we moved into like the 1800s, where there was the Pony Express, so the very first direct mail of sending mail across the United States. Then we went to the telegram, and then the radio, then the telephone. Maybe the radio and telephone were back to front, but the telephone, then the radio, and then we had television, almost 70 years ago. Then we went into color television, and then in the 80s, mobile phones were created. Then we had the very first internet and email, and then search engines came along, and then there were ads on search engines, and then after search engines we went to like the era of blogging and writing again, but just in the digital age. And then after that we had things like YouTube pop up. They recreated the television, and then social media popped up, with MySpace, and then Facebook, and then all of the other different variants of that through social. And then podcasts are getting big, and then we've got all the private messaging platforms, the WeChats and the WhatsApps and the messengers that are starting to take off. So that's kind of a really, really quick, broad history off the top of my head of where marketing and sales attention has been, and it's shifted, through different modalities of communication, of visual and audible and text, right? And going back and forth through from analog to digital in different orders as well. We're seeing the advent the proliferation of podcasts and radio. Actually came before television, but YouTube came out almost 15 years ago. So just the order is kind of getting a bit different. So that's where we've come from and where we're going. And I spoke this year about how social media is now going private, and the rise of private messaging apps, and I think that's going to be quite big. And also the rise of influencers, but the control of these awareness platforms, social media, wanting to take that control back and monetize it themselves. So both private messaging platforms and influencers are going to be big within 2020. Absolutely, for sure, no doubt. Video is also going to be big, even though YouTube has been around, as I said, for almost 15 years. Long form video, stuff I'm doing right now, is going to be big. Short form video is also going to be big with platforms like TikTok and the popularity of Instagram and Facebook stories. Audio is also going to be big. Long form doesn't really matter what it's going to look like, but podcasts are going to be coming back. We've got the Google Homes and the Amazon Echoes that are doing a voice search. So voice search is going to be quite big as well. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen in 2020, but that's where things are going with the consumption of audio. Reason being is it's really hard to watch video. You actually need to put time aside to be proactive and watch video, whereas audio you can do anytime while you're driving, at the gym, blah blah blah, while you're walking, and so on. So that's why audio is going to be a better, easier, more effective modality of content for people to consume. So from that, I'm going to give you a bit of a plan of what I think you should be doing in 2020. You should be creating long form video. You should be distilling that long form video down into audio versions of that, and then distilling that down into shorter video content as well. You should also be taking the long form video and either taking the transcript or the brainstorm that got you to that point, and and using that for short length text. You're going to being able to use those 3 different modalities, not long form text. I think the era of blogs and text search is a good 20 years old now, and I don't think that's where things are going in terms of the messaging, not the awareness of marketing and sales. So there's really 2 things that I want you to be concentrating on for the next year. Where is the awareness? It is on those platforms I was talking to you about, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the stories platform, the platforms that run stories, podcasts as well, and then the content, what form it's going to be in, and then also what modality it's going to be in. I also think you should be collecting telephone numbers of prospects and customers because of the rise of private messaging platforms. It's one of the easiest ways you can go and find and look up prospects and customers, so you can do one-on-one communication with them. Going back to the era of the 90s, almost 25 years ago, where text messaging was big, I really much think that's where we are going with people's want for privacy. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going, both in terms of awareness, so the platforms I'm talking about. Back in the day, it was billboards and newspapers. Today, although the platform has changed for that awareness, the concept is the same. We've got the TikToks and the stories platforms out there that are replacing those, because that's where people's attention are. And then how do you go and bait that attention so they can take notice of the context for the offer that you have, so you can make a request for them either to become a lead and then go through that again to then become a customer, or vice versa, just to become a customer. And how you're going to be communicating what that context is, what that offer is, and what that request is, what modality is it going to go through, and what length, and how you're going to distribute it as well. So hopefully this is useful. I want you to try this out throughout the next year, 2020. Let me know how you go throughout that whole year. It may take you a little bit of time to get your head around this and start implementing, but I love hearing feedback and comments from people. And until we talk next time, I hope you have a fantastic day, and goodbye.
Thanks for listening, and if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orenprunken.com.